Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on my clip and grow Tamarix Juniper. I bought this juniper at a garden center last year for $12, and I've been using clip and grow to style the tree into a kind of a windswept mountain juniper. This will be the third styling session of this tree, and you can see after the last session the foliage has gone from the scale-like adult foliage to more of a needle type foliage on it now. So I must have taken a little too much off with the last pruning, but eventually it will revert back to its adult foliage. I've marked two possible fronts for this tree. So there's one possible front here, which I've always kind of had this as the front on my previous videos. And if I rotate it around to the back here, I also have a nice front from here, a very windswept style. So either, this branch can be my leader, or in this view, it's kind of the one out here with this as a trailing branch. So both styles are very interesting. This one is has more depth to the tree. However, this side has a stronger windswept kind of look. So I'll style it so either view looks good. I won't make my final decision today, but yeah, I'll keep in mind that there's two nice possible fronts for this tree. The styling work on my clip and grow juniper is a little different than if you're using wire. If you're using wire, usually you strip off all the growth that's underneath the branch, and then you wire the upright branch down more horizontal. With clip and grow, I remove the upright growth and I keep my lower horizontal branches, and that way I can keep my branch kind of flat and windswept looking. So that's what I'll be doing today. I'll be styling this tree using clip and grow. I'll use this branch as an example. So underneath the branch I have a horizontal kind of branch way back here. I have another one here underneath and another one here. The ones back here, they look really healthy. This one's quite strong, the lower one, but the even stronger branch is up here. This one, you can see all the new growth at the tip. So for sure, I can take it back to that one, like that. And if I wanted to get daring, I could even take it back further, but I'm going to leave it for now. So this strong one, I'll prune it back, taking the tip off, like that. So this kind of balances the growth between this really strong shoot and this slightly weaker one below. And my goal is to eventually prune this branch back to this lower one, but I've got to wait till that strengthens up before I can prune this branch back to it. Because you've got to keep some nice amount of green, healthy foliage at the tip here. All this upright growth in the branch right here, I'll remove totally. Like that. So that keeps my branch growing more horizontal, and I still have a nice amount of foliage to keep this branch nice and healthy. When you're styling a windswept tree, it doesn't mean that every branch has to go on the leeward side of the wind. You can still have branches that point into the wind, but you've also got to shape your foliage so it gives that wind-blown look. So a branch tried to grow into the wind, and then the wind dried it out, killed it off, and only the foliage on the leeward side survived. So that's the look I'll be going for, is, not a one-sided kind of all the branches going to the left. I will have branches going to the right, but eventually, the foliage on them will go into the windswept look. I'm going to continue to work on the branch that I started here. So I've got an upright shoot here I can remove totally. I've got a nice horizontal branch coming out the back here, which looks really, really good. I'm just going to prune it back a bit at the tips here, and that'll promote back budding on that branch. It'll keep my vigor, reduced a bit at the tips and encourage growth back here. Most of it is kind of pointing horizontal. I could take the tip off here to kind of reduce the upward trend of that branch, so I will. And I'll prune this part back too. Like that. Pinch this off. So that's kind of got this branch a little more horizontal. Now I have an upright shoot here, that I'm also going to prune back to a more horizontal branch, way back to here, taking that tip off. There's an upright one here I can remove totally. Trying to kind of flatten these branches out. There's another one coming off the back here that I don't think I need. It's kind of in between these two major branches here, and it's just cluttering it up. I have my nice division out at the tip here. So this one that's way back in here, I'm going to remove totally, cleaning that junction up. So now you can see how that divides. I have some new growth coming up the center between these branches. I'll take that out also. Like that. I've got a dead branch in here, a little shoot that died off. I'll take that out. I've got another little shoot on the middle there, and a couple at the back. So just to kind of clean this junction point out a bit, like that. Now underneath this branch I have one that's hanging down. I'm going to keep part of it. And I'm wondering if I should keep all of it to strengthen it up. If I were to prune it off shorter, it would get weaker and maybe die off. So maybe I'll leave that. You know, it could be a possible branch leader someday. I could, you know, replace this tip eventually with this branch, get a little more taper and movement to it. So I'm going to leave that on for now, even though it looks a little untidy underneath the branch. Pruning for the future. Now here on this back branch, I have one going upwards. I have a better branch going more horizontal here, so I'll take that one right off, unless I want to change the length of that branch, which I don't think I do. I don't want these two branches equal length, and I think this back one's going to be the longer one because it's thicker. So this part is going to come off. So here I go. Like that. I'm looking down above, and you can see the two branches. I got my thicker one at the back here, and this is the one I was working on, and I'm cleaning out that space in between the two branches, flattening these branches out. So that's what I'm working at, is these, you know, trailing branches here. Just kind of cleaning them up, pruning them up. I'm going to continue working away at this branch structure. So here you can see I have one coming up from this branch, and it kind of goes quite high in the air. Now I don't want, you know, I've got this branch here, I've got the one that's higher at the back, and then I've got this branch. I don't want them all on the same level. I want them kind of at different heights. I think it'll make it look more interesting from the front view. So, you know, I've got this branch is probably my lowest, my higher one, and this one will be in the middle somewhere. So I've got some good strong shoots coming out here. I think I can safely prune it right back to here, and I will. So here I go. Taking the tip off there. I'm going to prune off this one on this side. It's getting a little high. And I think I'll even take off this one, making it look a little more wind-blown, that branch. And same on this one. I'm going to take off the one on the wind side, keeping my trailing branches that are blowing in the wind. Dead one I can take out here. There. I've got one branch here. I can just prune these lower branches off again, cleaning it out so there's a bit of space between all these branches, so I can kind of develop, you know, tighter clouds of foliage. Should look quite nice. There's another one here. I'll take out this one on the windy side, keep my wind-blown branches, give it more of a bit of a wind-blown look. On this tree, there'll be hundreds of decisions to make, which branches to keep, which ones to prune off, and there's no right or wrong. It's just kind of what you think will look good. So I'll keep working away at the tree, pruning it up, making all these decisions, trying to get that kind of cool mountain wind-blown style juniper look to it. I have finished the pruning for today, and here's how much I took off, which, you know, isn't a whole lot. And I didn't want to take too much off. I want to develop this tree slowly, hoping to get that adult foliage back in. You can see how it's kind of spiky like the needle foliage. Hopefully we'll get back to adult foliage someday. So let's go in now and take a look at the tree. Before we have a look at the tree, I just want to talk about my styling intent here. Sometimes you see a lot of wind-blown trees, and it's obvious that it's wind-blown. Every branch looks like it's blowing in the wind. You can see the direction of the wind really easily. I'm not a fan of these super highly styled wind-blown trees. I prefer one that suggests wind-blown. So maybe it's growing on the shore or in a mountain where the wind is constantly blowing one direction. The tree wants to grow in all directions, but it eventually succumbs to the wind and gets that sort of directional look. So I've kind of styled this juniper so it's not obvious that it's windswept. So when you look at it, it looks directional. You can see the direction the wind normally blows, but it doesn't look like it's over-styled, that every branch, you know, is going with the wind. You know, every branch curves around is going with the wind. It's a little in between, I guess. It's a subtle wind-blown tree. So let's have a look at the tree now and see if I've achieved my goals for today. Here is a look at the tree. This is the one possible front. So I'll rotate it around and you can see it from all sides. So here we go. Coming around to the right-hand side. Coming around to the back, which is also a possible front right about here. Coming around to the left-hand side. And back to a possible front. I like both these views, you know, this side here, and I like this side about equally as well. They both look cool, I think. So there's my sort of wind-blown tree. I think it has a suggestion of a wind-blown tree, but it's still very natural looking, like it doesn't look over-styled is what I'm hoping. So yeah, so I didn't take a whole lot off today, but I've opened it up so I can get new back budding, new growth in here, tighten up some of these foliage pads. I think it's a step ahead. So we'll check in on this tree later on this summer and see how it's doing. It's time now for today's updates. The first update for today is my red maple penjing. You can see after the last pruning, there's new growth that's coming in, and it's looking much more miniature. Here's a look at the penjing up close. So you can see a lot of the new leaves have come in quite small. Some of the older ones here I can prune away, getting rid of the larger leaves. So yeah, it's looking, you know, much more realistic. The old man fishing by the stream here under a grove of maples. My second update for today is my Black Willow. After the last pruning, it's grown in really, really nicely. Today I can give it a bit of a trim. I'm going to use the blue scissors and do a profile prune on this tree, and this will be the last pruning of the year for this tree. I'll just let it grow until fall, and then all the leaves will fall off, and then in spring it'll come back into leaf, and once it's got large and bushy, I'll prune it once again. So here I go on the profile pruning. So I think a good height is about here. And I'll just prune it to a rounded shape. I think that's pretty good, right about there. So I'm not doing any structural pruning at this point in time. I'll just let it fill out again and then keep profile pruning, and then eventually I'll select my branches a little more carefully. My older weeping willow died. It slowly got weaker and weaker and eventually died. And I think the problem is that the roots were too waterlogged all the time. I had that big tray of water underneath the tree, so the soil stayed wet all the time. And I think, you know, the roots, they grew in the water more than in the pot. And so now I've got a shallower tray underneath my black willow. So when I water the tree, that shallow tray fills up with water. Throughout the day, the tree uses that water and it dries up and kind of keeps the root base with a little more air and less water in it. So I think it'll encourage the growth of roots in the soil and hopefully keep the tree healthy. That's my theory anyway. So we'll see how it does. Also, I think overwintering it in the greenhouse where I can monitor it a little more carefully, keep it well watered, not letting it ever dry out, and keeping the temperature a little more stable. I think it'll do quite well. So far it's doing well anyway. It's starting to look more like a mature black willow. I'm very happy with the styling. You know, there's a lot to sort out. There's a lot of kind of thick branches that'll have to be cut back to get movement and taper, but that'll come in the future. Here's a look at the shallow tray that I have beneath the black willow. So I'll give the tree a water now. So the tray is totally dry at the moment. So I'll give it a water. Like that. Now you can see the tray is full of water here, and it'll use that water totally by the end of the day. The next update is here in the greenhouse, and it's my Brazilian rain tree from the workshop. So I had a really horrible root system on this tree, and I did a light pruning to the roots, and the tree didn't like that at all. So here's the tree. Many months later, all the branches went brown, the leaves all fell off, but the trunk stayed green, so there was hope for it. So if I zoom in here, you can see the first signs of growth. There's a little branch popping out on the trunk right there. So that's exciting. The tree has finally recovered. And this is typical of many Brazilian rain trees, is they'll sulk for like a year and you'll see no signs of life, even though the trunk is green, and then suddenly they'll recover and begin to grow once again. My larger Brazilian rain tree that's on the floor of the greenhouse here has grown incredibly long again and needs pruning, so that'll be upcoming on a future video. I'm very excited to continue working on this juniper far into the future. I love the basic overall shape of it, and I'm hoping I can make it even better as it grows and develops into the future. That's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.